definitely worth talking about. The V30S. Yeah, it's stupid. We can talk about it. Let's see. S8 gets Oreo, but then they canceled the rollout.
Then it didn't get Oreo, but they didn't actually. They didn't say they canceled it, but everybody's pretty sure they canceled it.
Did we update our post?
I think we posted
it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we posted. Yeah,
maybe Martine should update this post to link to the new post.
Yeah.
That would probably be a good idea.
So, I'll give them a ping.
Yeah, please do that. S6 devices might get it. Did we ever get confirmation from T-Mobile about whether or not that was happening?
We did not, at least as far as I saw.
See, that seems very like somebody accidentally did a thing to me.
Yeah, we can. We don't think we need to get into that.
Yeah, I don't think we do either. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Testing reply. Okay, I've not looked at that app, but it looked mildly interesting.
I think we can have some interesting, like making fun of it at least.
We can talk about Nest, sure. Huawei pay reviews, absolutely. Google Home visualizations. I would like to talk about Google Home visualizations. It's interesting. Android Go news. We can talk about Android Go. Poll results. I'm going to cut those. I think we got enough.
We've got quite a bit.
We got a nice long sheet of stuff.
I think it'd make good filler if we decided to.
Yeah. Solid 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, accidentally ruined that URL. All right. So I think we're ready to go here. I'm going to social us real quick here. And I guess I should open the chat.
Yeah, I should open the chat too.
I wish there was a way to open it from the Hangout because having to go to the YouTube URL is just dumb.
Well, if you get YouTube notifications when something goes live, at least it's like a couple of clicks to get to it. But still, they should have a shortcut right in the Hangout.
Yeah, they should. Yeah. I'm guessing that's just the fact that, well, Hangouts on Air Team does not care.
Is there Hangouts on Air Team?
That's a great question.
I am almost positive there is not. Or there's like one guy. There's one guy who works on it during his 20% time.
Yeah. That would explain the toolbox not working anymore.
Well, it hasn't. You know, he does it every Friday, and so this time tomorrow he'll look at it, he'll determine what's wrong, and then next Friday he'll fix it.
All right, we are recording. We are socialed. I think we are good to go here. I am going to. Oh, damn it! Stupid Windows 10 shake gesture. How many times does everybody else accidentally close all of your other windows because Windows thinks you shook?
Oh my god!
A lot of times. I've never used that. I've never used that on purpose. It's always.
I wonder if you can turn it off.
I use it on purpose when I set a wallpaper and I want to see the wallpaper.
I just mouse to the corner and just hover your mouse in the corner.
Oh, is that what we're talking about?
No, we're talking about the shake, where you grab a window and shake it, and everything goes away.
Why is that in there?
I've never done that.
Constantly accidentally activate it.
I always use my keyboards to move, or keyboard shortcuts to move windows around, so I've never tried it.
Yeah, I've tried to get used to the left-right thing, but I don't use it.
Oh, I use it all the time. I'm using it right now. It's fabulous.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so I think we're ready to go. Let's... Welcome to the Android Please podcast. I'm your host, David Reddick.
I'm Ryan Whitmore.
I'm Cody Toombs.
I'm Jordan Palmer.
I'm Corbin Davenport.
And I'm Ryan Hager.
And I'm back on the show this week. So hello everybody.
Hi David.
Yeah, I'm here. So we have a lot to talk about actually this week, as opposed to other weeks where sometimes we don't have as much to talk about. But we've got quite a hefty sheet of topics here. So let's just dive right into it. The first one is something I think got everybody fairly excited. Android Messages is preparing to launch a web interface. And I think I'll let Cody take away what the evidence is here and, any other features that seem to be coming down the pike for Messages.
All right. Well, I'll short version this a lot. If you've used Allo, the web interface is coming, the exact same sort of web interface is coming to Android Messages. A teardown of version 2.9 basically gave away the same setup process. You scan a QR code on a web page, it hooks to your phone, and anything you type in the web interface gets sent to your phone, which then gets forwarded over your carrier to whoever you're talking to. So yeah, that's basically it, and it's going to be epic.
Yeah, I'm personally very excited for this. The only other thing I would really want is the app I use right now, Pulse, is it does cross-device sync rather than just a web interface, which is a mirror implementation.
So like Allo, this is one device at a time and doesn't like automatically move your messages between devices.
Well, I mean, it's still text messaging. You just now have your desktop to use as
right, but
your
it
interface.
doesn't like keep the messages you sent on like one phone if you start using a different one.
I'm no, there's no sign of syncing like that. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll implement that, and there's just nothing to show that yet. But I kind of doubt they will. It seems incongruent with their strategies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a good thing, though. I mean, this could get me to switch to messages. I just really wish there was. Android Messages doesn't have a backup utility built into it. So, like, I could live without cross-device sync if I could just back everything up every time I switched. I know that you can use the Android backup tool, but, everybody's backup tool on every phone is, like, different.
Well, I was going to say,
Backup Plus.
doesn't Android Oreo have SMS backup?
It does. If you're using vanilla, I believe.
On the 0.1 devices that have Oreo.
Yeah, exactly.
Just for pixels, right?
Yeah, well, even going from like a Pixel to the Mate 10 Pro, I don't think you have any message sync.
Yeah, I think it's just for pixels.
Yeah, so I think it's a nice idea. I think having it self-contained, would be nicer. I do think there's probably, Google seems to want to avoid the same thing that Apple avoids, which is keeping any of your messages in the cloud, which is dumb and bad. And it's the whole reason Hangouts was so attractive for so long, is you could just use any device and it just worked.
Yeah.
Like you just picked up where you left off.
That's still the main SMS app that Google. Well, I don't think they recommend you use it anymore, but the SMS sync still works. So I still get all of my texts.
I think it only works for people using Project Fi, right?
Yeah, they turned it off for everyone else.
Yeah, and that is definitely a hacky solution. So I'm guessing Google, is just hoping that eventually RCS is going to pan out and that Android Messages will, slowly but surely become a fully featured, chat app, because just like Hangouts, probably they can. I wonder if there's a way with RCS if they could kind of virtualize the process and release, a messages app for other platforms where basically Google just sends the SMSs, virtually through its own servers, and you just you could use it on an iPhone and it just spoofs your regular phone number or something like that.
So that's there's reason to suspect Google may actually specifically be doing that, but or planning to. But RCS does, as part of its protocol, it actually supports this thing where carriers can basically expose the messaging service. So if you didn't want to send stuff through your phone, you could also log in through your computer and it would be exactly the same.
Interesting.
So it is definitely supported. And as far as I understand, and I could be off on this, but I believe you can, to some extent, either pick your RCS provider as part of the protocol, or it might be kind of more of a forwarding thing. I only saw this a while back. I didn't really get the details very clear, but it seems like if you don't really like your carrier, you could still use somebody else. And if that's possible, I mean, there's no reason why message storage wouldn't be an option.
That's fascinating. I would love to pick somebody at Google's brain about this. They were so hot about RCS at MWC last year, but nothing seemed to come of it. Like, we still don't have any.
I mean, carriers are very slow to change.
I mean, all of the carriers are on the the Jibe, like the pact with the GSMA to use the Jibe standard, basically. But
well, I mean, it's easy to say you'll do it, but it's a lot harder to actually do it.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, because I think Sprint has it rolled out on some phones, and then AT&T has it rolled out on some phones, but AT&T's was their own thing, and I don't know if new AT&T phones still have that. And then Verizon has their stupid Messages Plus thing that I still think they put on phones. And T-Mobile like has been testing RCS, and I think they have phones with advanced messaging support, but I don't know. There's no cross-carrier compatibility between any of those things. So
yeah, no, I mean it needs to just be a thing that every phone can do, like out of the box, like whether or not you buy it from your carrier, like
you know,
texting, be able to do it. Yeah,
what a concept. Yeah, not
or like
everything.
I mean. Or like voice over LTE has more or less gotten. I mean, you can buy an unlocked phone from like Huawei or whatever, and it'll have voice over LTE on usually most carriers.
Yeah, I always see that. Well, I remember using a Xiaomi phone and I got the VoLTE logo, but it didn't actually do VoLTE. So I think that's. But I have noticed that quietly, I think sometime last year, AT&T and Verizon made their VoLTE networks intercompatible. So. Like if I call somebody on for AT&T, my Verizon phone still gets HD voice, which is nice. So I think there's some desire from the carriers to make the stuff work together. I just, they're kind of dragging their feet. But
yeah, T-Mobile's still the only US carrier with it. Project Fi still doesn't have it. I think there might be something to do with the fact that it uses 3 different carriers as a network. I don't actually know that.
Probably maybe something to do with it a little bit on some level.
I might be wrong, but I think that's why they have that forwarding feature built in is for MVNOs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I know there's other things in like what is it? It's not voice over LTE. It's some Project Fi feature that only works if you're currently on T-Mobile. I forget what it is. But I know there is stuff like that.
That makes sense. Yeah.
But yeah, there's been international carriers that are slowly adopting Jibe, but no other U.S. carriers yet.
Yeah. So, moving on to our next topic, we're going to switch gears here to phones. LG is probably going to announce a new version of the V30 at MWC, the V30S.
Yeah, and that jives with the report that they were going to focus more on existing devices going forward instead of releasing new ones every 12 months. So I guess they're sticking with the V30 right now, and they're going to and this one's going to have AI.
The only difference is storage and the camera, right?
And, well, yeah, it's gonna have the AI. I mean, that's the new thing. Everybody has to have AI in their phones. If you don't have an AI phone, then you just might as well not have a phone.
And
better than that, you need a pretentiously named AI. It's got to have
everything. Also needs blockchains.
Oh, LG's AI has a name.
Machine learning.
Learning, yes.
LG's UI is named ThinQ, but spelled like think with a Q. But they pronounce it
clever LG.
It's not clever. It's bad. And I'm sure LG's phone is just going to have the best AI. You've never seen AI like this AI. We have the very best AI. So many AIs everywhere. Yeah. It's just going to be LG, man. They will hop on a bandwagon just to hop on.
So they're calling this the feature that this phone's going to have LG Lens. So I guess it's going to be some sort of camera thing. I guess kind of like Huawei has.
We got the press release about this. I'm surprised we didn't update the post. They sent a list of commands that will be able to do on the camera.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I did see that. Yeah. So you'll be able to you can talk to it and say, take a camera with whatever weirdo manual mode we've included, and it'll do it.
Oh, LG phone, take a Cinelog.
That's definitely something I'm going to say.
Somebody's definitely going to do that. Absolutely. So we'll see what it is. I mean, I would be surprised if it even has a Snapdragon 845 in it. I don't know if they've had the time to.
I would be shocked if it did. I feel like one of the reasons they wanted to back off on the phone releases is because Samsung gobbles up all the new Qualcomm chips in the early part of the year.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I know we're going to see announcements from probably a good handful of OEMs at the show, and I bet a lot of them will have Snapdragon 845s. I bet Samsung's phones will come out first.
Oh, yeah, no, I think it'll probably be June-ish before we see another 845 phone.
Maybe a little sooner, but we'll see. I would definitely suspect that there will be a delay. So this V30S phone, I would not be surprised if we're getting, basically, you get the maxed out storage and RAM, so probably 6 gigs and 128 gigs internal. And then maybe they do some kind of special finish on it or something. And then it has, the V30 had Oreo. So I'm not sure what else.
I think this is supposed to have 256 gigs of storage.
Oh, really? Wow.
according to our post, which Corbin, I hope is accurate. Corbin.
Hey. Yeah.
Corbin.
I wonder if they'll even sell this phone in America. I have my doubts.
I doubt it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see, I guess. I mean, because the V30, I mean, I could look at our analytics again, but man, the V30 sold real bad in the US. I mean, we're like Android fanboy central, and like, you know, people who buy overpriced phones that nobody else buys. Like that's the people who read our website. And nobody bought the V30 when it came out. There were so few people visiting the site with that phone.
But David, everyone said that the V30 was a perfect phone, and that you were wrong.
It's like
Headphone
jack.
It was.
It has a headphone jack.
It has a headphone jack, and
Has the quad DAC.
and it display worse than the Pixel 2.
Yeah, it was
XL.
shockingly bad. I couldn't even believe how not similar they were.
It
But
really
David, the
is.
quad DAC.
Hold on, I'm actually going to look up and see how far down the V30 is on our
Now,
traffic.
will this include the V30 Plus? Do they have the same?
So the V30 Plus is actually more popular. It's number 55 on the list.
What
right
is
below-
immediately? Yeah, what
what is immediately precedes it? Oh, you know, the Sprint version of the Galaxy S7 Edge.
Of course.
And then the regular V30, the H930, is way down in 209th position.
Wow!
Oh,
Wow!
And then the US version of the V30 Plus, I think that's the LS998. Is that the Sprint version, I want to say? That sits down at 348th. So, like, this
like
phone
two
did
guys,
just-
like two guys have it.
This phone did
Became
not do
iPhones.
well. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't think the V30s is going to be a hot topic.
Yeah, boy, you'd think if they were gonna try to refocus their mobile efforts, they would not be doing it with a phone that sold that poorly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe they feel like, wow, we made this phone, and like, did anybody pay attention? Maybe we should release it again. Maybe they'll pay attention then.
That's why there's almost
update
no
the phone.
hardware difference. They must have a whole warehouse of these things just sitting on shelves.
exactly.
It's like,
Yeah,
guys,
sure.
did you see it? Like we
LG
built
is
the
doing
phone.
the
They'll
LG's
just
copying Bethesda. Instead of making new games, they just keep re-releasing Skyrim.
Yeah.
So we'll
They'll
just
just-
get
they'll keep-
V30 updates
They'll
for the
keep
rest of
releasing
time.
it with a new letter at the end every time. So it's a
New letter
V30S.
and symbol.
And, like the
Yeah.
next time it's the V30SX, and then V30 SXV. And a few years from now, people will be like, "Hey, they're still releasing that phone. I wonder if I should look at that." And they'll look and be like, "Oh no, never mind."
Never mind. It's been around for 5 years.
And speaking of companies from Korea that make phones, Samsung is releasing Oreo for the Galaxy S8, except it's not.
Yeah.
Because they like halted the rollout within days. It did not take them long to decide
Yeah.
that this was not something they wanted to do anymore.
Here you go, guys. JK.
What is it about the Oreo rollout that is screwing up so much stuff? It's taking forever for,
Yeah,
these big companies.
There's a bunch of stories. Not just Samsung has pulled their Oreo update, but
Xiaomi did.
Xiaomi did. Essential was going to do 8.0, but then they skipped it.
Yeah, they're skipping that, or they're doing 8.1 now.
And
And they're already 2 months behind the schedule they originally provided. They said at the end of 2017.
Yeah. I mean, Essential I can understand a little bit because they're doing treble along with it, but I don't think Samsung's doing that.
I'm guessing
OnePlus
they're
has
not.
already got. Well, OnePlus had to halt the rollout for the 5T, I think.
But they started
Yeah.
it back up again, didn't they?
Yeah. They had to
There-
pull it for a couple
there
days.
must be some crazy bug in stock 8.0 that's screwing everyone up.
Or crazy bugs. I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably a combination of things. Yeah.
maybe
it's-
is
maybe this
Android.
is the new lollipop where it has a bug that doesn't become
Oh God, yeah, I remember when new phones got Lollipop that were on older
Dude,
versions of Android.
Lollipop?
Oh, God.
The Moto X. Yeah.
lollipop.
wrecked phones.
Yeah. My I was using an original Moto G at the time, and it got the lollipop update, and I actually could not run any apps in the background.
Do
Like,
not
I
want.
I couldn't like I would be playing music, and then I would switch to the multitasking view, and the music would stop.
Moto's like, good enough. It boots.
Yeah, that's not good.
That was a bad update. They should have just waited a couple.
Yeah,
months.
Samsung is taking, even for Samsung, quite a while. Usually they have a global rollout of these updates, geo-limited by like the end of the year. You know,
Yeah.
they're 2
Yeah.
months
And
past that.
what's interesting though is even with all these like unusual delays, or at least they seem unusual. The monthly numbers from Google on the platform distribution, Oreo is like in complete lockstep with Nougat from last year.
Interesting.
I think it was exactly the same number this last time as it was for Nougat the previous year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if that's the case, then yeah, I guess it's just kind of the perception. We're probably also looking at, phones that don't make up such a huge part of the pie, like the OnePlus 5 and, the Essential phone and Razer phone and all these other phones that kind of, increase the quantity of phones to keep track of, but not the actual quantity of phones as much. Yeah. So I'm guessing that, your AT&T Galaxy S8 should get Oreo by June.
Your Verizon
If you're
probably by
lucky.
the end of the year.
Verizon's actually usually pretty fast these days. They're usually right
Depends
around
on
the
the
time
price.
Sprint comes out.
Yeah.
Sprint's usually first. It's T-Mobile and AT&T that tend to lag behind these days, I think. But yeah, it'll probably be a little while. And then meantime, the Galaxy S9 will come out and it'll have Oreo already, and it'll probably be a lot less buggy. And it'll be like, well, why am I waiting for this? Next story, getting back to Google news. Google is testing a messaging app. I'm kidding. It's not a messaging. It's an app for messaging, though. It doesn't
I
actually
think
message
that
things.
makes it. I think that makes it a messaging app, but it's just a different kind of.
It's an
messaging.
app for messaging apps.
It's a meta messaging app.
Yes.
It's an app that lets you message the developers of your favorite messaging apps.
Oh god.
So this is called Reply. It's a new app that basically adds smart replies to a number of popular messaging apps out there. The smart replies are, let's say, a little dumb at times, but I think the overall concept here is solid. It seems kind of hacky though, even for Google.
Yeah, it uses it only works with apps that have already implemented the direct reply, which is the little thing when you get a notification, you can respond right in the notification. I haven't tried. I don't think anyone has tried this because I don't think they've sent out the actual app yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, it seems like a cool concept. I don't think I would use it just because I never use these smart replies in any app. But I mean, it's neat. There's no. I don't see anything like horrible about this. It's just.
I
it's
am
an experiment.
I am surprised that the form to register your interest in the beta still works. I would have thought Google would turn that off after we posted.
I feel like they probably just like they maybe they want more people. I mean, yeah, it's a pretty generic form though. Yeah,
And they
But,
might
I
be
mean,
hand
it's-
filtering anyway.
this feels very experimenty. Like I feel like this will never come out.
Yeah, and it's coming from actually Area 120, which is just a part of Google that makes side projects basically. So
I feel like
like-
Google wouldn't release an app for this. They just release an API in Android.
Yeah, it'd be a part of Android rather than a separate standalone application.
Yeah. Good way to test the idea, I guess. In more Google news, Google has officially absorbed Nest. So Nest is now Google. And yeah, so there's no more Nest as a company. Nest is part of Google's hardware team. And so apparently they're fully integrating. And the last remaining co-founder of Nest left Google shortly after this was announced. Not shockingly, probably. I'm guessing the Nest team is probably losing some autonomy, and probably their leadership is losing some autonomy as this happens as well.
Yeah. So Rick Osterloh is going to be the boss of all the Nest stuff.
he's kind of in charge of everything.
Is
these
he
days.
gonna be the Papa Bird of
Yes.
the Nest?
Sure. Yes, that's exactly what he's going to be. Yeah, but I mean, it really didn't make sense to have Nest existing as an independent entity alongside Google anyway, if Google's doing this whole hardware thing. Presumably, they're still going to release things that are called Nest stuff, but they'll be made by the same, under the same umbrella as Google's other hardware.
They're going to put HTC to work making Nest products now.
I think so. I think what people have pointed out, the thing I saw when this news came out was people really think that the best outcome here is probably that Google's going to look at the economics of Nest and say, You guys are charging way too much for everything.
One can hope.
Which is the case.
Could we just talk about the camera storage? Holy shit! Like they want so much money for the camera storage. Like the hardware is expensive, but like man, if you don't pay for the subscription, your cameras barely work. And when you pay for it, they still don't work that well.
Maybe we can get Drive integration.
That's what people have said, is that if you pay Google for all this storage, why the hell can't your camera footage go into Drive?
That would just make too much sense.
Yeah, exactly. Cancel.
Oreo
I said the word.
Or it'll be
there we go.
It'll be like Google Photos, where you get the little tab in Drive, but it doesn't actually sync between Drive.
Yeah. So I think everybody's looking at that, especially like the Nest Secure subscription, for example, which is I think, what is that like? Is that
Someone in the chat said stream to Twitch or YouTube gaming with all your security.
Oh man, yeah. So I'm guessing that the camera storage stuff will probably go way down. I wonder, like, if they could integrate it with like, I wonder, as far as like Nest, like, person identification algorithm, I wonder if that's Google or if that's something Nest has baked up. And, I wonder if Google's going to get involved in that side of things and, maybe letting you opt in to optimize the smart features of your Nest camera in certain ways. Because I think they're going to get to this point really fast where Nest cameras can obviously understand, they can figure out who somebody is, like, creepily easily.
They've got all that data in Google Photos already, right?
Yeah, Google Photos is crazy at that.
Yeah, as soon as you integrate Google Photos data into Nest, man, your Nest is going to know who everybody is. Like,
yeah, it's hey, your uncle who you saw 2 family reunions ago is at your door today.
And he's got an axe. Thanks, Nest.
You're currently being robbed by Jim Warren.
I took that picture of that axe so that Google Photos and Nest
like, seriously,
it can identify separate axes.
The Big Brother level of stuff that you could get into here is absolutely insane, because Nest has this treasure trove of data where they can say, well, we know that there was a break-in incident and we saw X person. Well, probably most people who break into houses have a similar wardrobe, let's say, like a hoodie and maybe a baseball hat, darker clothes, trying to be like, it could, that's like saying there's a 70% chance somebody's trying to burgle you right now. based on our photographic analysis of the scene.
The chance of being burgled tonight.
Some shady stuff is going down.
No, but you know what? Because it's Nest.
Should I call 911 for you?
No, because it's Nest, they wouldn't give you a number. It would just be like your thermostat would glow like red if you were about to be broken into.
You'd get a photo, but they'd have integrated the portrait mode into Nest at that point, so it'd be like this really stylized bouquet photo of you.
We've got a great photo story of this guy jacking all your stuff.
Right? Here, Google Photos made a video for you.
And then a few months later, it'll be like, rediscover this day when you got robbed by that guy. Wasn't that fun?
Here, you can order a photo book with all these lovely...
And then somebody steals your photo book and they're evidence to local authorities. We can provide a printout for you. And this on this lovely cardstock.
Oh my god.
That's amazing. So I think there's just so much room for Nest to integrate in terms with Google in terms of software and assistant and stuff. I think assistant's going to be the big one. We already saw that Nest Cam, the indoor one, getting assistant integration. And I think that's just where it has to go. Like, they're going to have to release like a new probably version of Nest thermostat that is explicitly powered by assistant.
Yeah,
like,
I feel like that all of their cameras probably could just become assistant terminals.
Yeah,
like you wouldn't have to have a home anyplace. You would just have your cameras and you talk to them.
Yeah. I think there's definitely, like, I can definitely see there being like Lenovo announced their kind of like smart assistant display, but I guarantee Nest is going to make one of those. Like, how could they not? It's so obvious at this point, I feel like. And it seems like Nest would be the perfect testing ground for what is it, Android things.
Real quick, someone in the chat said, "Here's your year in unwanted visitors."
That's pretty good. Yeah. So I think I think this is definitely a good thing. Obviously, the leadership of Nest has exited, and so they're probably not super cool with it. But I think at the end of the day, Google's AI is so powerful that they can't afford not to make Nest's hardware deeply integrated with it.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
So, moving on to the comedy section of the show, because none of that was funny at all. Huawei paid for some reviews on Best Buy's website because they're like dumb or whatever.
Well,
They
didn't pay for the review. They asked their most rabid fans. They're like, "Hey, tell us why you're excited for the Mate 10 Pro, but do it at this link." And it was a link to the Best Buy listing for the pre-order for the phone. So of course, everybody went over there and they left 5-star reviews talking about how awesome Huawei is and how great the phone's going to be that they don't have. And there were over 100 of them, and Huawei does not understand why that was a bad idea.
I mean, they do now because they did apologize eventually. I mean, they didn't even send me the apology, man. I asked about it too.
Okay, no, I've seen the statement. It doesn't read like an apology. It reads like they're saying like, well, but we didn't tell them to do that, and they were expressing their interest in the phone, and they try to imply that it's like people had the phone to talk about. But like, no, they didn't.
Their apology wasn't "we're sorry we did this." Their apology was, well, they weren't paid for it, so I don't see what the problem is.
It's like, listen, I mean, I didn't tell your dog to tear apart your beanbag chair because I put a steak inside it, but I'm not responsible for what happened. Like, it's, I can see how maybe you could look at it that way, but yeah, this is very much somebody in China and at Huawei being like, hey, this is a great online marketing tactic.
You know what? I bet that happens all the time in China and everybody is just like, whatever, that's how it goes. But you do that here and people are going to notice.
Yeah. And as Anthony says in the chat, it's basically, we're sorry we got caught.
We're not sorry it happened. We're not sorry that we did anything that made it happen. And we're really not sorry about anything. But whoops.
Man, it was super, super obvious though too. Like they should have
totally brazen
to get caught. I mean, it's like the Facebook group where they set this up is closed, but it still has like 60,000 members. So of course people took screenshots and stuff of it. And obviously the phone wasn't even out yet as a pre-order page. There wouldn't be 100 people who could review it.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's totally ridiculous that they did that. I just think I think what happened is, after the Mate 10 failed to launch on AT&T, and then they lost the deal at Verizon too. Probably China is having a little more control over what Huawei's strategy in America is again, because there is no strategy now. It's like, we're going to sell this unlocked phone and nobody's going to buy it. So who cares about the rules?
I mean, and that's a bummer because it's a good phone.
It is a fantastic phone.
Seems like a pretty good phone.
It's just like no one's gonna like pay $800.
No, especially with
absolutely
no
not.
No one in the U.S.
Yeah, no financing is just like such a what are you doing? Like you can definitely get like what is it like? What's the company that Moto used for a while? Anyway, there are a lot of financing companies out there. I think Google uses Synchrony, and Synchrony sucks, but it's still like, if it comes down to just working out a zero interest payment thing, like they're probably fine. Yeah, nobody's gonna buy that stupid phone. So, or not stupid phone. I mean, stupid phone as in like the approach to marketing this phone is dumb in the United States because they can't really market it anymore.
This is true.
It also came out today that there's basically U.S. security agencies are recommending that people don't buy Huawei or Honor phones in America, which is just patently ridiculous. Like
they also called out. Well, I shouldn't say called out. They also mentioned ZTE as a company.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk like, hey, why isn't ZTE feeling the heat? Because they got that $1 billion fine,
and a lot of ZTE phones are sold by carriers. They're cheap phones, but that happens.
Exactly. That's a very that business relationship is very profitable for them here in the U.S. And same with quote Alcatel, which is TCL. TCL's a Chinese company.
People would be surprised to know how many phones ZTE sells.
I think that people would be even more surprised. TCL, which is Alcatel, they're number 4 in the U.S. They alternate between number 4 and 5 based on the quarter because they sell these crappy prepaid phones.
that are free with the carrier.
Yep. I mean, and the thing that doesn't make sense to me really is, do these people not know where iPhones come from? They're all built in China. Every single one of them is built in Shenzhen. I mean, if you were gonna sneak spyware onto a device, like, wouldn't be? They're already in China. You don't have to be like the company that makes the phone in China. Like, they're all built there.
Well, yeah. Didn't Foxconn get caught for something about that? Like some iPhones had software from the factory. I can't remember.
They had like factory debug software instead of the actual.
I think that was it.
Software image or something.
Yeah, I just think that if you're looking, you know, my whole thing about this is still like, for China, their whole goal is to promote Chinese brands outside of China.
They want the Chinese Samsung is what they want.
Exactly. And so the idea that they would risk, you know, basically being banished from a market in the West to spy on people.
Yeah, I mean, it's
dubious.
Huawei would be out of like every Western market if they got caught spying in the US. Like, European countries would immediately be like, nope, we're done here.
Imagine a OnePlus level fiasco with Huawei instead. People would like flip out.
Well, I think if it was like something organized like by the Chinese government, like if they felt it was espionage, I think that's what would that would doom Huawei.
Yeah, and there's something, I don't know if ironic is the right word, but there's something a little fishy with the FBI recommending me buy another phone because of government surveillance.
Yeah.
Pot calling the kettle black.
Please buy an iPhone so we can use secret court orders to spy on you.
These are the same people who bitch and moan about encryption on phones being a problem. Like, I don't really want to take advice on which phones to buy from you.
Yeah, definitely. So the next story, we're getting back to Google, and this is actually interesting to me because this took forever to come to be, and there's only one. Like, this is the first implementation, and that's really it. So you can now ask your Google Home to show you the weather. And if you have a Chromecast, and that's like your default casting device, it'll pop up on your TV with the weather forecast. And if you're already playing something on the TV, it'll pop over, so it doesn't take over the activity.
Oh,
which
that's
is kind
cool.
of
I
cool.
didn't realize it did that. That's fun.
Yeah, I like the assistant thing when you open it on Android TV. It's really cool.
I mean, that's cool, but like, you know, Google promised visualizations for Google Home coming up on a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
calendar was one of them too, wasn't it? Did
I
show you your calendar appointments?
I bet at I/O this year they will talk about assistant screens, and they'll show these again like they're new.
Yeah.
I bet they will. I think they decided to change direction. I don't think most people want to like use their voice assistant on their TV to see like basic information. I think people, that's like a bedside thing or something like in the kitchen or something on like the end table in a hallway, you know, where it's passive and you can just like look at it real quick as you walk by or as you're doing something else. Well, the TV is more of a dedicated, like you're sitting there or you're standing directly in front of it and you've got to focus. It's definitely a much more central viewing experience.
If only Google had some sort of like augmented reality headgear device where it could show you information. I don't know what they could call it, maybe like glass or something.
Yeah.
Terrible name. No, I think Smart Display pretty much killed this. Like once they decided, okay, we have to take on Amazon with this, like they dropped the whole visualizations as being a serious thing. Obviously they continued making it happen, but
yeah,
it seems like the priority has changed.
Form. It's like when Google decided to focus on Android Wear as wearable technology instead of glass. Like they reused a lot of the same stuff, but it's turned out different.
Because Android Wear was a great decision.
Yeah. I mean, technically, it's still better off than glass. Yes. Although I bet at I/O we'll still see lots of people wearing glass.
I wanted to like glass so bad.
Yeah, I wanted to get glass too, but maybe
Google wanted you to get glass.
If they made one without a camera, I wonder if that would be less.
That's half the utility of it, though.
That absolutely would not have changed anything. That's just what people latched onto.
I know, but I mean, I think early on that was definitely an impediment to glass. Like if it just hadn't had a camera, people wouldn't have had as much reason to complain about it, and it might not have ended up with the downward trajectory that it
Well,
had.
it was whoever was posting about the sort of second gen glass that these enterprise customers are now using, that actually have a light when you record stuff. And they probably should have done that in the first place.
Yeah, I guess that's probably a little Terminator-y. I feel like it's a little bit like I see you.
Make it a green light instead of a red light.
Yeah, I guess.
No, I honestly don't think that. Yes, that was something everyone latched onto, and it obviously got a lot of press. But in all honesty, I think it had a lot more to do with, well, they were called glass holes for a reason.
Yeah, it definitely, it's definitely a certain
if you
person.
It was the way people behaved.
If you make something exclusive that people have to pay $1,500 just to have, the people who get it are overwhelmingly going to be jerks.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's also the whole thing about talking to your phone or watch or glasses in public. It's just
I don't do that. Like, I never talk to my phone.
Yeah,
I'm very happy that the keyboard in Assistant became a thing because I use that all the time when I'm out.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think glass was in many ways, it was ahead of its time because we're seeing these augmented reality headsets, companies are building them. But the thing is, they're not for like people. They're for people who work in like a specific environment and need these as tools. It's not like, we're walking around and, oh, that's this person, that's that person, that's what this thing is. That seems like way off in the future still comparatively. We have like, probably the AI to do a lot of this stuff, but I think society and then downsizing the technology enough that it's actually useful. I feel like those competing forces are still enough to make sure Google Glass for regular people, it's not going to be a thing for a little while. So, moving on to our last topic, which is actually, I think, a fairly big one because Google's really going at it with these releases for Android Go. So Android Go, I remember like seeing all these app releases and thinking, like what Android Go phones are there? And the answer is there are none. There are no Android Go phones yet. Some phones are converting their software, like the Nokia 2, to have Android Go features.
Yeah, but they're not like true.
Yeah, there are no like devices that have actually come out that are spec'd, low sort of on purpose to be like, this is an Android Go phone. There was supposed to be one in India that came out last month, but it never did. So,
I think Android Go has probably been delayed a little bit, but I feel like all these app launches are making it clear that Google's getting underway with it.
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of these apps are neat. I wish that Google would let you download them in the Play Store, but most of them are, locked to only devices that report, lower specs. So you have to sideload them from, a site like APK Mirror.
And don't some of them like supersede because they're newer versions, then you can't uninstall them because of the system.
Oh God, Gboard Go, when that came out, I tested it. I installed it on my Pixel, and I was like, oh, that's cool. These are the features that are missing. Now, how do I get back to the real version? It was a pain in the butt.
So did you have to like use ADB or something? Or
no? So it turns out that for whatever reason, Gboard has the option to uninstall back to the factory version only in the Play Store. Like you go to the Play Store page.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't have it in the system settings, which is what threw me off.
Yeah.
So I was able to get back to the real version.
Yeah. So these Go versions of apps, some of them are actually just progressive web apps, basically like Maps Go. I think it's just a web app.
Yeah, like you can do Maps Go without installing anything, and that's kind of cool. And you can also like you add it to your home screen, and it has the Maps Go icon. You launch it and it looks like an app. It doesn't have like a URL bar at the top or anything.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I'm confused about with these Go apps is that the development side seems very different from one app to another. Like you have Google Maps Go, which I actually tried. It's pretty nice, and it is a web app, so you can run it on anything. Hey, Windows Phone finally has a Google Maps app.
Wait, does Edge for Windows Mobile, does that work with progressive web apps?
The Google Maps Go isn't actually a progressive web app as far as I know. Like it does, well, it might be. Actually,
It might be a progressive web app.
Well, the weird thing with progressive web apps is that there isn't really like a set definition on what makes something a PWA. It's just like if it's a new web app that uses new stuff.
So like the Maps Go app, I assume, or the Maps Go web app, I assume it has to have like service workers deliver you notifications for like navigating.
Well, well, it doesn't have navigation yet.
Oh, it doesn't. Okay.
Yeah, it just gives you like the directions. It might do like some caching in the background, which would make it a progressive web app, but I don't actually know. I haven't looked deep into it. But the Google Maps Go app, it's a web app and it's pretty nice. And then you have Gmail Go, which is like this lagfest native app, and I don't understand why these are so different from each other.
So it performs really poorly?
Yeah, well, I tried it on my phone because I was trying to figure out if it was a web app or not, which it isn't as far as I can tell.
And then didn't Artem try it too?
Yeah, so Artem tried it and ranted about how much he hated it. Rita tried it, and I guess she actually liked it. I have not tried it, but
yeah, it's got most of the stuff that Gmail has. It's just scrolling is really laggy for some reason, and I don't know if it's because it's using some kind of optimization that is only on Android Go or whatever. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, we just don't know that much about Android Go yet. I'm really curious to try an Android Go phone when they come
definitely.
out.
As soon as they exist, I want to get one, even though they're not going to be here, presumably. It would be nice to be here.
Yeah, I feel like eventually but Google's done this before though, like, slimming down Android and making these super cheapy phones because that's what Android 1 was supposed to be.
And we didn't get an Android 1 phone here until 4 months ago.
Yeah, exactly. And that's Android 1 has evolved into something much different than when it started out.
Like when it started out, all the phones were the same hardware and they all used the same software builds.
And now it's basically like the Google Play Edition.
Exactly. Yes. That's what I was just thinking the other day. It's like they've resurrected the Play Edition phones somehow.
Yeah, which is cool, but
that's kind of what I think that the Android Go is sort of. I don't want to call it a doomed prospect, but I don't really get why they're doing this because this is going to be relevant for a year.
What they might be doing is they're going to make this like the new Android 1, but they're actually going to do what they promised to do with Android 1, and it's actually going to be limited to developing markets and people who need phones that cost $50 out of the box. It might actually stick to that sort of approach.
The smartass in me wants to just say promises.
Well, I mean, it is Google, I guess.
Exactly. I mean, they're great, but man, plans have a tendency to change, especially when they target markets very specifically and then realize, maybe this wasn't fully thought out. And then plans very quickly change.
Yeah. And, Android Go is all about making super low-end phones work well, but technology keeps getting better. So I wonder if in a year or so, even super budget phones in India will have like 1 or 2 gigs of RAM with 8 gigs of storage or something.
And that's why I think this is a short-lived prospect. I mean, it's going to take very, very little bump in specs before they could be running regular Android perfectly fine. So I'm just not seeing a pitch for that.
I find it's interesting that India is like the market that apparently, is being targeted first. And I'm sure part of that is just that there are a lot of Android users there, but it's also like it's a rapidly developing economy. People don't need to buy the cheapest phone available most of the time. I think Android Go makes a lot more sense in like Africa and like Central Asia. And those might be places where a super cheap, low spec phone like an Android Go phone.
I think there's still definitely demand in India. I mean, so
I'm sure too. Yeah, I'm sure that there's. Well, yeah, there are like 1 billion people.
Yeah, exactly. There's tons of people in India. So my insight on this is, so last year when I was actually benchmarking the Snapdragon 835 in San Diego, Qualcomm showed us these phones. So they stopped calling the 200 series a Snapdragon chip last year. Now it's just a Qualcomm 200 because Snapdragon means like some level of performance. and 200 is just super basic in terms of chip features. It does LTE and stuff, but like, you know, it's very bare bones. So they were showing us these phones that they had developed with these companies in India, and they combined, you know, some of them had touchscreens, some of them didn't, some of them used button nav and or had like, you know, T9 pads on them, but they ran Android. And so I was looking at these phones and I was like, this UI just feels real familiar. It was customized, but I was like, I feel like this is Android. And so I went into the settings, and of course I found it. And it's some hack together like version of Ice Cream Sandwich based on Cyanogen mod. So like they had taken like open source code and like this running this ancient forked basically Android that's just no longer supported in any way. But because, you know, these phones weren't going to get new applications or anything, they were just going to use what was already loaded onto them. It didn't really matter very much, or they were loaded with proprietary app stores. I could definitely see Android Go being a good platform for something like that. That said, you know, it's a question of like, do handset makers actually want that? You know, there's probably just different business considerations.
Google probably does not want that. Google wants everybody using the Google services.
Exactly. And I think that's why part of why Android Go exists is Google knows there is going to be this growing market for these phones that are not quite full-on smartphones, but they run full-on smartphone software. They just may not have the capabilities, and the hardware just may be so limited in what it can do. But people buy them because they have access to internet connectivity. These devices are useless without the internet. So there's probably a good argument to be made that focusing on a web first, you know, version of Android might make more sense, because you'll be able to you won't have to deal with storage issues as much. You'll be able to deal with the limited amount of RAM more. You know, the processor is still going to give you a headache, but, you know, it avoids some of the issues that, like, you know, probably some of these phones can't download, you know, Google Maps because like the cache eats up all of the available storage on them almost
Google
immediately.
Maps it would be all the phone did.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that Android Go probably there's, you know, I'm hoping that we'll see some Android Go devices at MWC. So we'll get a sense of where they're going and like how basic they're going to be. Because I'm very curious about the platform on the whole, just because I think it's Google probably addressing a problem that's going to be around for a little while, especially in the developing world.
Yeah, I mean, it's success. I mean, like, you know, like Cody was saying, it very much depends on Google's ability to decide on a plan and stick to it.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see what happens with Go. I just, you know, I will have to see what the phones are like. With that, I don't know if anybody has any other news that they want to bring up.
Don't believe so.
I don't think anything hugely important happened today.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah, so I think that probably does it for us this week. Thank you for listening, everybody, and we will catch you next time.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Jordan.
Yep, as always.